Hello, everyone. We are here for some Week 7 FanDuel tight ends, folks. How excited are you for this, Jason?
I'm more excited than you are for tight ends.
I, I- we've had this conversation. I was being a Debbie Downer about tight ends. I came in, said how everything stinks and the world is gray. And, Jason comes in with his little ray of sunshine and opens my door and says, Russ, everything's okay. I made you like pancakes. And then I was like, you know what, Jason? Get out. And I slammed the door on him and it hit his foot and he yelped. And then we started the show. So
Yeah, that sounds exactly how it went. Yeah, that's right.
um anyway, getting into the cash game group of tight ends here. I think we're looking more in a value sense. Hunter Henry against the Falcons obviously plays for the Chargers. Obviously, he's a rookie picked in the second round. What are you looking at? Hunter Henry, 5,800.
I think the price is fairly solid in terms of that mid range. There's no real Zach Miller to rely on this week, which is a little bit of a downer. I mean, we've kind of just been plugging him in and getting 10 to 12 FanDuel points out of him. Obviously, the touchdown streak that Henry's got going on has kind of made him look better than what he's been. I still like the matchup this week. I think even if he doesn't score a touchdown, still think he's going to hit value here at 5,800. He's been solid, and Rivers has been really relying on him. I think you look, with what he's done, he's got the highest completion percentage of the wideouts. And I think, Travis Benjamin, who knows how healthy he is, Tyrell Williams, who's going to be locked up on Desmond Trufant. I think a lot of targets are going to shift to Henry this week. So I think in terms of the price, I know there's some guys that are priced up a little bit higher that I'll talk about later. But overall, I think just the price in general is what I'm looking at as long as the matchup.
I think that's fair. If he's still under 6K, still cheap on DK. I think this is just another week where the value makes enough sense to not really worry about, potential snaps being taken or any type of regression. He can still regress a little bit and still crush value. So certainly like that. And, we're both in agreement on Jack Doyle this week, 4,700. It's actually a little strange that he's priced so cheaply. When he was, he was 4,800 on the last slate I played. So now he's 47 against the Titans team that, isn't bad, but no Dwayne Allen, obviously things are looking up, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Allen's out. We saw, obviously, there wasn't a huge amount of targets to go Doyle's way once Allen left the game, but he was the more successful wideout or tight end, whatever you want to call him, towards, the end of that Houston game. He's seen 26 targets this year, I mean, which is only 3 less than Allen has. He's caught 88% of them, so he's been efficient with the targets he's been getting. Already know Moncrief, Philip Dorsett's a little bit banged up. Football Outsiders has Tennessee ranked 14th against tight ends, so it's a pretty average matchup. You look at Doyle, I mean, in that game that you mentioned, I mean, against Houston, 13.3 FanDuel points. I know you had some shares there. Pretty solid. I think you can kind of see a similar number this week. I think the targets are going to be up. I think you can see them in about that 6 to 7 target range. I still think anything with Andrew Luck, total regardless, it's pretty low, but I still think an Andrew Luck-led offense isn't going to be a complete disaster, even though there's a lot of kind of things going up against with a horrible offensive line, a lack of kind of options due to injury. I still think they put up some points, but if Jordan Reed sits out this week, I think Vernon Davis is another solid punt as well. You just look at the matchup. Obviously, there's no better matchup for a passing game right now than Detroit, especially with tight ends. We saw Davis 50 yards and a touchdown last week. And I think if Reed's out, he's a viable option as well.
Yeah, Vernon Davis, I mean, he's still going to have those moments. All of his moments as a Denver Bronco were just him, going out and literally just dropping passes. That was his Denver Broncos career. And then they were just like, John Elway was just watching and being like, after 1 week, all right, we can't have this guy around us anymore. And, he kind of went to Washington and he's actually looked pretty good this year. Obviously had looked good in sub duty last week, but he was actually not like he was contributing even in prior weeks in a smaller role. So I actually think this might be a little sustainable for him in a bigger role. Um, as far as GPP tight ends, you had Gary Barnidge in here, 5,200 against the Bengals. Give us your takes because
Let's
this is
get
hot.
weird.
This is hot. This
Let's
is
get weird.
HAWT, uh, weird emoji, uh, with that. What's that fruit or that vegetable people throw out there? You know what I'm
Oh,
talking about? The purple one,
the eggplant. Yeah,
the eggplant. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know why, but I'd like throw an eggplant like at Gary Barnidge right now.
That's a little weird. I mean, usually you slide into like you toss a couple like that's J.R. Smith. That's his go-to emoji. He slides into some DMs and pops in the eggplant emoji.
Oh,
I don't know why you'd be throwing that at Gary Barnidge. That'd be a little weird.
just to see if we can catch it.
Okay. 5,200 though this week. I mean, Terrell Pryor is expected to play. Obviously, if there was a downside or a setback and Pryor doesn't play, then you like Barnidge a little bit more. But I like him either or here. Obviously, the Pryor is the go-to guy in this passing game. Um, Barner's been reliable. I mean, obviously targets have, not been at a premium like they were last year, but 71% of the passes thrown his way, he's caught. You look at this Bengals defense, I mean, allowed 4 touchdowns to tight ends this year, 12.1 FanDuel points per game. Price is pretty low. Obviously, Cody Kessler hasn't looked all that bad in terms of, all out just fading this offense in together. But I just think he's a real deep play, especially with a lot of guys not really pulling their weight in that middle range, like Zach Ertz, like Delaney Walker. You know what? I'll take a stab at Barnidge this week.
Imagine if Terrell Pryor didn't play and then they signed Mark Pryor and Mark Pryor came in and it was just like this sick deep threat and like just crazy hands and like, but he was so goofy. I mean, I can't imagine that guy ever played football, but I can't imagine he's a good wide receiver either. I'd love to see it though.
Well, I think if you're going to go Cubs wide receivers, I mean, Jeff Samardzija played football.
No, but that doesn't have the same, last name. So
Right. Yeah, I
it's
forgot
not,
it. You're
yeah,
on a
yeah.
first name basis type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Pryor, I mean, it's not spelt the same, but it's said the same. So if you're talking to the layman, you could sneak that by them. Uh, you know. So Mark Pryor, get Kerry Wood at tight end.
No, Carlos Zambrano is more
Oh,
telling.
Carlos Zambrano. You kidding me? He's a linebacker.
All right, we were way off track here.
Anyway, Rob Gronkowski, 8,500 against the Steelers. That's a pretty expensive price for a tight end. I like his price more on DK. But what are you looking at here?
That's the thing. I mean, my personal choice is I can't pay up that high for a tight end in cash games. I mean, we know the upside. I still think there's a reasonably low floor in terms of an $8,500 price. I mean, you look. I mean, he may get 100 yards. 5, 6 catches, but at 8,500, I'm not quite sure I'm being paying for that. He's got to really have the 2 touchdown game to kind of pay off that price, which is certainly there. I mean, you look at what he's done against Steelers. I mean, he's averaged 23 FanDuel points per game against them in their career, 7 receiving touchdowns in 4 games. So he's destroyed Pittsburgh in the past. Obviously, coming off back-to-back 100-plus receiving yard weeks, found the end zone for the first time and looks healthy. And I think Tom Brady right now, obviously, given a big bump to guys like James White, Rob Gronkowski, who have seemed to be the focal points of the passing attack. It really hasn't been a lot of Edelman or a lot of those secondary pieces this year.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Certainly viable, but in that price range, that's really pushing my trust. But I will, still a good play. Is there anything else you're really looking at here before we sign off?
I think, I mean, the same kind of thing. We talked about Delaney Walker. It's like, what do we do at this point? I'm kind of off of it for the meantime.
There's no reason, there's no reason to be on him and Kelsey right now. Unless you're trying to be contrarian, like there's just no logical reason to be like, I like Travis Kelsey this week. Okay, why? Well, because he's athletic and he was good once. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, great, cool.
So, in my thing with Gronkowski is he's the same price as AJ Green. He's more expensive than Allen Robinson. He's more expensive than Cooper Evans. Like
Right.
when you group that together, that's how I got to look at tight end and wide receiver right now. Is I got to
Right.
group those guys and just see who I'm really truly paying for.
Yeah, and on DK, it's so much easier to like talk yourself into him at 72, you know? Just because anyone at 72, if they hit 100 yards and get that extra bonus and maybe a touchdown, like you don't care who it was, you know? But, you know, on FanDuel, it's just, a lot tougher for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So anyhow, thanks for tuning in, guys. We hope this helps you with your lineup construction. As always, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to read Jason's article, head to dailyfantasycafe.com and check that out along with our other great content. Well, there is some good content, and then there's my content as well. You can also find that. I don't know how good that is, but it's still there. Anyhow, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.